Hi everybody, welcome to SteveO TV with me, Rich Gibbons, and my always excellent colleague, SteveO.
Hello, Rich. I saw the tool time thing come up, but that's not a problem because we're actually talking about tools. I
I did
panicked for a
think that.
moment, and then I was like, "No, hang on, we're talking about a tool. It's fine, all good."
It's a dual SteveO TV / tool time.
Indeed, tool take
Yeah,
the
I
time.
saw that and thought, oh, I can tell
Yeah,
it's the first one we've done in
yeah.
2026.
And that my son woke me up at 4 a.m. this morning.
Well, we will keep it brief then, so you can go and have a nap. But we are we're here today to talk about what is pretty big news for the first week of the year. That Flexera, traditionally an ITAM tool, that's where many people would think of them. They've been on a bit of a journey for the last 5 or 6 years, probably. But now this week they've announced the acquisition of both ProsperOps and Chaos Genius, which both quite well known in the FinOps space. It comes on the back of the Spot from NetApp acquisition of only 6 months ago, maybe.
Yeah, 6, 7 months ago. I mean, we did a video on it. I'm sure we can find by looking at the date of the video we released, which was a couple of days afterwards, like this one was.
So yeah, I mean, it's all acquisitions are always exciting, interesting. Give you food for thought. What are your initial thoughts on this whole thing?
So I've been a big proponent of ProsperOps for a long time. Know the people, very much like them, like the tool. I've been a competitor to them. Have even had conversations in an attempt to acquire them, which were not the right thing to do at the right time, but remain friends with them anyway. They have grown and grown and grown, and they have adapted better than anyone else in that space through techniques like laddering and stuff. They've moved across them more than just AWS. But if you look at the early competitors, Zesty has pivoted. Archera still exists. They weren't probably an early competitor, but they do a slightly different way of doing things. But they do have some good visibility tooling bits. Strategic Blue, a bit of a different beast. So they're one of the only ones that have carried on remaining strong in this. Their main competitor was probably Zesty and Spot Eco, right? I've said in the past, I wasn't a fan of Spot Eco. I moved away from Spot Eco with my clients to ProsperOps in the past. I think that tells you kind of what I think is there. One of the challenges we had early on with ProsperOps was the kind of the partner level thing, which they worked on, which probably is why this makes sense now. But the first thing that jumps out in the ProsperOps thing is it says to me that Flexera possibly weren't happy with Spot Eco or wanted to buy more market, but also the way Spot Eco worked hadn't adapted like ProsperOps. They hadn't got themselves to an ability to do multi-cloud, to handle the move to savings plans, and that's really important. RIs are disappearing, and the whole mechanism behind ProsperOps was RIs initially and convertible RIs.
So, do you know what? Actually, that's a point. I'm just thinking for the people watching us that are maybe
what do they
more.
do?
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, great. So ProsperOps is a commitment management tool, automated one. So you switch it on, and then it will handle your commitments for you. Now, the beauty of how it worked in the early days, and still does to an extent, is they use something called convertible RIs. And what it happens is they buy a tiny one, and then it takes a load of they leave it tiny until the last month of its time, and then they can convert it into whatever they want. You can grow an RI and then split it apart, and then grow it and split it apart with convertible RIs. So you would be able to get really close to your utilization with very little risk, because you only had it for a month or whatever, right? And so it was a technique that 3 or 4 companies came up with. ProsperOps did it best, I would argue. And so you were able to get really efficient and tight commitments that could handle seasonality and stuff, which has often been a problem. When people have had like busy periods, they've not been able to commit to that, and ProsperOps allowed you to do that. And then with the advent of things like savings plans, RIs kind of started to diminish in their use. A lot of us were still like, no, that you've still got these techniques you can use with things like ProsperOps. They give you a benefit. What we've seen in the most recent AWS instance releases is there's no RI pricing, so it is coming to an end. And we've also seen our savings plans finally make their way into databases with the RDS stuff that happened at reInvent. But they also moved across into into Azure and into Google. So that's what they did, and they are, I would say, the leaders in the world at it. But because the market is changing, it is a less competitive and less valuable. More people are just kind of going, I don't need a service, I'll just buy savings plans, right? And so it's probably an interesting point of inflection where stock in something like ProsperOps, while brilliant, is probably going down because of the risks of things like the removal of RI pricing. And Flexera looking at kind of going, I want to be able to do the other things that ProsperOps can do in the commitment space, and being a good time for both parties. And we know people on both sides, right? There's a really nice team could form out of this. So that's my thoughts on the ProsperOps one. I don't know if you have anything else on that.
So yeah, I mean, I had a few people ask me on LinkedIn, similar to what you were just saying, that market is kind of shrinking and isn't as big. Why would they bother buying them now? But I think Flexera are building a platform, end to end, ITAM, SaaS, cloud, data cloud, etc. And this is something. I mean, we don't know the financials, but it probably wasn't a massive amount of money for Flexera, and it gives them, a feature that is expected
and a good client book. ProsperOps are a lot of big clients, in terms of even in that front. And it's worth noting their laddering stuff on commitments is interesting. Like the way they do that and having that automated is a value in that. Whether and the fact they do the stuff they've done in Azure as well. What I would say is harder now, and this isn't a dig at ProsperOps, it's anyone that's doing a gain share model commitment service, is I think it's harder now to make, certainly in the first couple of years, savings versus just having a savings plan. Like, because you pay the fee, having that difference, there are places where it doesn't work. But if you actually want to remove the headache of managing this stuff as well, and it being done in a really clever way that reduces your risk, then it's a free hit, as it were. Going to your point though, that Chaos Genius is a really interesting one. Data Clouds, which we help write some of the stuff on for the foundation, right? You more than me, is an expensive and problematic area. You can spend money in seconds by making a change somewhere, and I did think it was a gap. We're looking at the tooling in this space, right? There's not many of the big platforms have a good answer here, and Chaos Genius is an interesting one. I would be really interested as to why they bought this particular one. Again, nice people.
So I did see, and this is LinkedIn comments, so it's public. But Becky from Flexera said they were using Chaos Genius themselves while they were building Flexera 1, and realised actually what it's done for them. If they could,
there you go. I hadn't seen that. Yeah,
so
that makes loads of sense. I've never used Chaos Genius, so I can't do too much in the commenting. But what better experience on whether to buy something than to have used it, right? So
and again, for people that aren't familiar, when we talk about data clouds, this is primarily Databricks and Snowflake.
That's the only ones they cover, isn't it? I think.
Yeah, so it's the big kind of data warehouses, you might call them. They've been around for a long time. They've been getting more prominent, but then this push towards AI the last couple of years. What does AI need more than anything? It needs data. So people are seeing, where they're spending on AI, they're also spending proportionally on Snowflake and things. So
and structured data, that's the thing. It needs to be data that can be used in a meaningful way, and that means you end up generally using something like that. There's a waiting list on the website at the moment for autonomous agents for Amazon EMR, Elastic MapReduce, if anyone doesn't know, and then Redshift as well. So it is expanding to some of the AWS native stuff. Be interesting to see whether it goes into some of the Azure and Google native stuff.
Yeah, I mean, BigQuery would be
exactly. I would put BigQuery ahead of EMR, like in terms of usage out in the market. But it's probably easier just to do both AWS ones at once. That makes sense, because it'll be similar, integration pieces. But yeah, BigQuery's, I think, the biggest, most interesting one out there.
Yeah, certainly comes up most in people we're talking to.
There are companies that specifically focus on BigQuery. So maybe it's seen as a less, there's more competition, so maybe that's part of it. I've not really seen many people, I don't think I've ever seen anyone say they'll do Elastic MapReduce, but I've not seen many people use it. So there are some big clients that use it, but that might be why.
So Seth, they've kind of filled, with ProsperOps, they filled a gap. Some people might have said maybe, where Flexera was missing something that they expected it to have. Chaos Genius is a bit more
totally new, isn't it?
Yeah,
new expansion of their capability.
And I think, if you're a Flexera customer, this adds, a whole extra set of data that you can bring together, more silos that you can break down, etc. So from an end-to-end perspective, I think Flexera really strong position. But equally, and I've had this conversation with a couple of people, separate point products for some organizations, that's the way to go.
Yeah.
So it's, we spend a lot of time talking to people about tools and making sure, it's about, yes, it might have loads of features, but are you going to use those
You're
features?
paying for them all. Are you using them all? Yeah.
So it's, I think an exciting time for Flexera customers. For some, it might be, more exciting than for others. For ProsperOps and Chaos Genius customers, we were talking yesterday, Steve. They both have a gain share model that you mentioned earlier, where it's priced on a percentage of savings, etc. How that will translate into
Did Spot Eco keep that in the acquisition? I haven't checked that.
I don't know actually.
That would be the precedent.
Yeah. So it's, I think it's, it's an exciting time. We've talked a few times about the market and consolidation coming and that kind of thing. So it, bears some of that out. I think it shows great intent from Flexera. And often, when one company makes a good acquisition, it will spark their competitors. So IBM haven't really got anything in this space particularly. But who do you go and get? There's not many people left now, because people have kind of flooded out of this space. Cloud Hero, Archera, SteveO doing something different. Yeah,
interesting.
So IBM, it would seem likely that they'll look for someone, potentially ServiceNow. They would want to keep pace.
Do they acquire in the same way as IBM and Flexera? Because in the FinOps space, they've not done a lot, but in the SAM world, did they?
They did buy some SaaS companies. I cannot remember the name of them right now. This is going back quite a few years. But yeah, I think, first week of the year, great sign of market action, intent from Flexera. What will it bring from other competitors, and what does it mean for Chaos Genius's competitors? Are they going to be trying harder now for acquisition? Do they see it? The market is a little bit more open now, so they can push on themselves. I think there's lots of positives that should come out of this for everyone in the market, I think.
I've just been looking at the Spot Eco stuff. It doesn't say whether it's gain share anymore on the website, so we'll see.
Right.
I might have missed it because I was just scanning it, but there we go. Anyway, we should probably stop boring people. But hopefully it was useful. But thank you, Rich, for putting this together in your time. And
no problem.
Look forward to being on SteveO TV again soon.
Absolutely. See you all soon.